Hello and welcome to the Middle East Forum Speaker Webinar Series. I'm Stacey Roman and I will be moderating this discussion today. We are pleased to have Zainab al-Suwaij, Executive Director of the American Islamic Congress, join us to discuss Islamism and Leftism, Converging. Ms. al-Suwaij will speak for 15 minutes and open it up for questions. Should you wish to ask a question, please use the Q&A box located at the bottom of your screen to type out your question. And with no further ado, I'll turn the discussion over to Zainab al-Suwaij.
Thank you very much, Stacey. Good afternoon. And thank you very much for the Middle East Forum for such an opportunity to talk about very timely and important issue. I would like to start by discussing or talking and giving an overview about the Muslim community in America. The Muslim American community is fragmented, divided a lot based on ethnic lines and religious lines and political lines as well. When we talk about politics, we talk about radical political agenda versus a mainstream agenda. Islamist Muslim organizing around a radical political agenda, they are representing some of the big portion, not a huge, but a big portion of the Muslim community in the US. And this is definitely affecting all of us as Muslims living in the US. They believe Islam is the solution, such as the Brotherhood, Taliban, the ISIS, and many other radical organizations. They are influenced from the Middle East, the influence from the Middle East and foreign countries following them here in the United States and affecting a lot their behavior, affecting a lot the way they talk, they behave, also how they raise the next generation, which makes it very difficult for young Muslims who are born and grow up in the United States to live a normal life without having that influence and radical agenda implemented in their mind. Over the past 6 decades, these people have taken over Muslim community structure, unfortunately. Political leadership in America, most of the time and mainly dominated by Islamist, radical agenda from foreign policy, religious affairs, and interfaith relations has a major saying on many different platforms. If we are talking about what have changed in the past, I would say 2 decades. Let's talk about near history rather than talking about an old history that we have lived in. Many people have seen the change in the Islamic radicals or the Islamist agenda in the recent history. And how can we connect that to the left in the country? There are so many different platforms, there are so many different incidents, and also we are seeing the new curve that the Islamists are taking on the ground, and they are adopting new principles. Whether they are really sincere about these new principles or not, this remains to be discovered. It's obvious, does not need more than looking into what has been saying publicly and how they are being exposing these things publicly and what is being said internally. There are many radical organizations and Islamist organizations in the US, unfortunately, taking this as a goal and using the opportunity of freedom and freedom of speech and everything to control the mind of simple Muslims living in the United States. So the danger is surrounding us. The danger is not very far away from us, and we are paying the price, whether we are Muslims or non-Muslims in the United States. When you have a community that is radicalized and you don't know, you see this a nice gentleman or a nice lady, they are talking in advanced or liberal, open-minded, and you think, well, these people, we can have a relationship with these people. We could develop something together. We can have a peaceful community together. Unfortunately, this is not what's inside and what's have been said. I have attended many of these conferences that's been held by these radical organizations just to have a feel of what's been said publicly is similar to what's been said inside among their groups and their people, and it's totally different from what's been publicized to outside and what's inside. Also, giving that being said, also we see what they have been saying and publicizing for their organizations overseas. I have the opportunity to travel to many countries, and I get the questions about what some of these organizations, and I was very curious to see what these Islamist American organizations say to their followers or their supporters outside the United States. And believe me, it's a very gloomy and a sad picture, and it is very radicalized agenda. So how did the two groups meet? We're talking about the Islamist, and we are talking about Islamism, and we're talking about the left. Islamists actually, as I said earlier, they adopted the new principle or the new curve in their practice, not because they believe in any of the freedom principle, not that they are believing in equal rights, nor they are believing in religious freedom, or they are believing in equality and so on and so forth, or human rights. In fact, it's to gain a platform. Many of these people show this other face to give that example to people, to ordinary people who do not know. They say, well, we have a platform. We are advising the government, for example. We have a say to advance our agenda, their radical agenda. And this is unfortunately affecting the regular, ordinary, mainstream Muslim Americans inside the US, because if the leadership or what they hear about, they hear from are the Islamists, then we are in a big danger and big trouble. And if we are looking at the other side, and what are they looking for? They are looking for votes. They are voters, and also they are looking to show the diversity within. And this is this kind of a relationship will last for a short period of time, but definitely will not be a very will not take a very long time in terms of relationship, because the principles are different. At least when we are looking at the Islamists inside their communities and what they are preaching, as I said, is totally different than what's been projected. And I remember one incident, and I will give you that incident. It's a living story. I was in one of the conferences overseas, and I saw one of these imams that has been, very well known and very well respected in the DC area. He is in all the government conferences and platforms, and they call him when they have a question, or they have they need his advice, and he is the dove of love and peace. And in one of these conferences, I was, so I saw him in the conference and he said, "How are you?" And I said, "I'm good. Thank you for asking." And he said, "You know, you're doing a great job. The only thing, you're too Americanized." And I said, I was really taken by that. And he said, "You are close too much to the, to the American." And I said, "Well, I am an American." And he's like, "Yeah, but this is not what's supposed to be." And I said, "What do you mean what's not supposed to be? And you're an American as well." And he said, "Yeah." And he said, "You're doing great job, but your only problem is that you are too Americanized and you are too close to people of certain faith." And I said, "Well, you're a nice, thank you for the comment. This is not, I don't see anything. I see it as a compliment, not otherwise. But also, I would like to say something. You're a nice person, but you are too close to the brotherhood." At that point, he shut his mouth and he did not go any further. But still, this person is still active, is still doing all of these things, still advising on certain platform. He is being, but what's inside and what's preaching to other people in other countries and other places is totally different. So we are facing these kind of dilemma in our daily life, whether we are people are on the government side, or ordinary people on the street, or the Muslim community, the mainstream American Muslim community. It's really a big challenge that we are facing, because these people, as they are showing that they are believing in principle, changing their mind, and you see that they are developed and reached a certain level, but at the end, their political advancing of their radical political agenda, it's their main issue. And even it doesn't matter how savvy they are, what kind of charisma they have, at the end, these links to the radicalization and Islamism that it's been fed into them actually would not allow them to be just ordinary people on the practicing their faith just like a mainstream Muslims. This relationship, as I said, between Islamism and the left, it's a relationship will not last, because sooner or later the other side will discover the intention and the deep intention of each other, and especially on the Islamism side, because what they are preaching and what they are showing right now on the surface is totally different than what inside. And what I mean inside is the radical Islamic agenda, and will not meet. So it's temporary, I will consider it, and will not go any further. Unfortunately, we have to deal with these things. We have to be very careful. We have to be careful on the social level. We have to be careful inside the mosques and religious centers. We have to be careful in schools. We have to be careful in college campuses. College campuses is another story, is another dominated place for to hijack the mind of the young people, student on colleges, and to reform their mind to be radicalized. Unfortunately, these things that we are seeing day after day, it's making us think ahead and further. What can we do as people of this country, as citizens, and what kind of measures that we could take to prevent our young generation, to prevent our regular people, mainstream people, from going into that, being in that situation of being radicalized or being Islamatized. I will stop here, and I'll be happy to answer any questions. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much. So the first question we have in is, can you just give a brief overview of what the Islamist radical agenda or platform that you're referring to is? And how can one assess the degree of radicalization compared to other Islamic groups in the US if without more specificity?
Mhm. Well, the Islamist agenda basically is to radicalize um, people that the mainstream people. We're talking about regular Muslims who are worshiping on a daily basis. But when you're talking about political Islam, it's totally different from Islam. And if your radical political agenda in destroying communities, societies, hatred against different faith, hatred against people who do not believe in what you believe in, violence, all of these kind of things are political agendas. Advocating for radical groups, violence radical groups overseas, even advocating for groups to do harm to people, explosions and so on and so forth inside the US or Europe or other parts of the world. I mean, these are very obvious things, but the most dangerous thing I would say is the way they talk to the young generation and people, whether through social media. And social media has a huge effect right now in controlling young people, whether through Facebook, all of these kind of different programs that you see online, and it's an easy access to all of these radicals to spread their words. The other thing is to bring people charismatic, young, energetic, very savvy, and they sell these radical thoughts. And we have a lot of stories about young people and also older people who've been radicalized. And this is a red flag that we should all be aware of.
Thank you so much. So could you give some specific examples of who the radical Islamists in the US are? Can you name names?
Well, there are several organizations that are radicalized. I think that they are very obvious, starting with CARE and many other organizations. They are working in the United States using our freedom and our democracy to spread radical agenda in America, which is sad.
So how exactly and why are these radical organizations influential on local, state, and federal government?
Because there are many they try to have many people join the government. They've been trained, they've been brainwashed, they've been pushed to believe in the radical agenda and also to implement it throughout their work and their job when they work at the government. And this is a huge danger we've been suffering from for many years, and we've talked about it on many platforms. And this is something that I think our government and people surrounding should be aware of.
And do you think the US is destined to follow the path of Europe? I know you said that the left and the Islamists will eventually part ways, but
Right.
do you think that will part ways before that happens?
Before what happens?
Following in the path of Europe.
Not in a near future. We still have, each group has to reach their goals first before that happen. But when they reach these goals, this is where the danger starts. The danger is not now, the danger is later, because the influence of that relationship on people from both sides has a huge damaging effect.
So how do the reps Omar and Talib relate to your discussion here?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
The representatives Omar and Talib relate to your discussion?
How is she related to my discussion? Well, there are several issues that been discussed and talked about. I would, as an American citizen, I would like to see a representative that represented my issue as a citizen of the country, whether on employment, education, economy, and political situation inside the U.S., developing a human right issue, talking about different rights. But when a representative in the U.S. Talking about their main concern is a foreign issue, then this is of a benefit to me as a citizen of this country? Why do I have to elect a person that do not represent my cause or my family or my affiliates? I need to see a U.S. representative that I elect and I gave my vote to, talking about issues that concerning me as an American citizen in the country, not representing foreign agenda implemented inside the US.
So currently, do you think that the left is aware of the internal discussions of the Islamists?
I am not sure that they are aware, because if you are looking into the relationship right now, it seems that they are taking for granted what they are telling them, and they are not really going deep inside. We had a lot of meetings throughout the years, whether interfaith or talking about religious freedom issues or foreign policy issues, and what has been projected is different. And people from the left side wanted that relationship, wanted to feel that they are inclusive, that they are including the Muslim community. But unfortunately, what they are including in their discussion or their relationship are the radical Islamists who want to advance their agenda on the other side. And this is something that they should be aware of. When we talked about these kind of issues and this kind of danger for many years, they just didn't want to believe this. Oh, this is a right agenda. This is not the right thing to talk about. They don't show these things. But when the danger come to their door, then they believed it. Unfortunately, this is, I give you an example. Many years ago, I was invited by one of the churches to give a talk. And at that time, that was right after 9/11, this church is only women, no men in it. So I went there and I gave my speech, and they invited another Muslim or Islamist women who came to that conference. After I finished my talk, she called her husband to come, and they welcomed her with open heart, and they said, "You're our sister, you are this, you are that." So when I gave my talk, she was very disturbed, because when I talked about radicalization within the Muslim community, Islamism in America, and how bad it's affecting the US in general, despite whether you're Muslim or not Muslim, she was bothered. So she called her husband. The minute I finished my talk, he started screaming at me. And I was really taken by that. It's like, how dare you saying these kind of things? And after that, the ladies at the church actually were taken by what happened. They were surprised that, when I talked about what I talked about at that time on radicalization and Islamism and how bad it is and how much it's affecting our community, they were, and after I finished, they saw the example in front of them when this lady is discussing it and her husband was screaming. They said, when you talked about, we didn't want to believe it. But when we saw his reaction to you and how he was screaming and talking about these kind of things, it means there is something that he's trying and his wife trying to fight. And this lady was affiliated with them for a long period of time. So this is an example of what's happening. They discovered after many years in an incident. Many people do not really look into these things, and they take it, as they say it, and for granted.
Understood. Thank you. Can you please comment on the radical Islamist element in CARE, and how can we object to an organization like CARE without being accused of being Islamophobic?
Well, when this question we get it all the time is like you are an Islamophobic, and even when we are as Muslim talking about that, they call us Islamophobic, and I would tell them, well, look at me, do I look like an Islamophobe? And it's unfortunate, but you know what? We have a responsibility as citizens of this country. We have to take an action. We have to stand strong, and we have to project our voice strongly. We don't want our freedom, our democracy to be taken by radical voices, by Islamism. And when we are talking about that, we are talking about a united citizens against radicalism, against Islamism. And whether we are Muslims or not Muslims, I rather to be called Islamophobe rather than falling in the trap of Islamism inside the US.
So along those lines, Mr. Daniel Pipes has for decades stated that radical Islam is the problem, moderate Islam is the solution, yet the White House since Clinton and Bush and through the Obama, and perhaps even Trump failed to see it and act on it. What must be done to change the status quo, reject CARE and others such as them, and approach moderates like you?
Well, there are a lot of, unfortunately, the Islamist groups, as I said, they have infiltrated our government offices, so they are everywhere. And this issue, it's been actually of a danger to all of us and affecting even the most difficult and dangerous and sensitive decisions that the government makes, because they depend on some suggestions and some opinions of these radical Islamists who are contributing to these decisions. We would like, as a Muslim, I would like to see a strong leadership committee that could deliver this kind of message. I know, like the Middle East Forum, it's been delivering these messages. They are being discussing these issues, trying to advise, trying to make that change. We are trying from our part. I think each one of us working separately, but I think there are many moderate voices, very strong voices. Need to be all of us united together to deliver that message clear and loud to the government and through their offices, and to make it clear it is for the safety of the country and its own citizens.
So another question is there any reason to worry that Islamists can hijack the agenda of normalization between Israel and Arab states? Are those Arab countries normalizing? Let's just leave it at that, sorry.
Are there any concern? Yes, there are a lot of concerns. Actually, on in the Middle East, there are a lot of different situations. There are so many different, it could be just a short period of time for that relationship, and later on it will disappear based on certain benefits that these countries are getting, or the influence of radicalization, the voices of hatred in some of these countries and places, which will take over the voices of reasoning. And so I don't see the picture as, oh, okay, now we have an agreement, we are good, we are friends, this and that. This could change, and change easily, because the influence of radicalization and radicals on mainstream people, whether they are in the US or in the Middle East, is huge, and the effect is beyond what you can imagine. So these kind of things, I will not take it for granted, because what you hear on the ground is different what you see on TV, unfortunately.
Thank you so much. And can you just tell us where we can find some more of your work or other publications you think would bring this to light? No.
Yeah, well, you can definitely check our website, www.aicongress.org, and we will be happy to help with anything or any further information that you need. And thank you again for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
Thank you. We really appreciate you speaking with us today. Unfortunately, we've come to the close of our webinar. For our viewers, please join us Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern for an update with Ashley Perry. Thank you all for joining us, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Thanks again.